Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and give you a little information on the type of work that I do. I operate an emergency shelter for runaway and homeless youth ages 11 to 17. Here in the Savannah area, we serve Bryant County and others in Effingham County, and we do return youth across the United States. Our emergency shelter is a 12-bed facility, and what I've got running up there on the slideshow is we had a beautiful Victorian house at the end of Forsyth Park, if any of you are familiar with the Savannah area, and we had been there since 1982. That building was over 100 years old, and this last year we just built a brand new facility. And as we built the new facility, we started to showcase it with this type of technology, with a slideshow, so I thought I would bring this along. This was our original building. Beautiful, but it was a big fire trap and maybe not as safe for our kids as we needed. So in February, we moved into a $1.5 million Leeds facility, which is a green facility. And it is such a nice facility to be in, very, very comfortable. But let me go back again to the kids. People ask me all the time, what kind of child runs away? And I would ask you, have you ever wanted to run away at any given time in your life? And when you stop and think, most people can identify with that. I've got children that run from their homes. I've got children that are taken from their homes. They're fleeing abuse and neglect, and I've got children that are leaving homes because they're going through some of their teenage mishaps. We have served close to 200 a year, and since 1984 we've served almost 5,200 in this community. And not only do we serve this community, we can return youth across the United States. And I had several stories that stick in my mind. Probably 5-6 years ago, we had 3 young people that were from the Pennsylvania area, and they decided that they were going to take themselves a vacation. They were 12, 13, and 14. And once they got out on the road, they hooked up with people that they shouldn't have hooked up with, some older people, 21, 22, and brought them down the Atlantic coastline and then dumped them out on Tybee Island Beach. They'd had a lot of experiences that I wish they hadn't had, and ironically, the one little girl was 12 and she turned 13 the night she came in her shelter. But it sticks in my mind because as we called the parents up in Pennsylvania, all 3 sets of parents got in their cars and drove down. They were so relieved to know where their children were. I've had another young lady from the California area that left home when she was 14. And she literally lived on the streets and went across the United States twice, from the East Coast to the West Coast. And I can tell you that I probably wouldn't have lived through that type of experience. But she had gotten back to the East Coast for the second time. She was in Savannah. And she actually called the police and said, will you please take me someplace safe? I don't want to have to worry about what I'm going to eat and where I'm going to sleep one more night. And the police brought her to our facility, and we were able to make the connections back with her family, and we were able to send her home safely. So not only do we work in the immediate Savannah community, we work across the United States. Now there's some tips that I would give to people in their families if there's any type of an adolescent in watching any kind of changes in behavior, any kind of acting out, starting to miss school, this unruly behavior, maybe even making the threat, you know, you'll be sorry when I leave. These are all types of things that need to be taken seriously. We need to be able to confront the youth in a calm manner, and what we would really like to do is prevent a youth from actually leaving home, because we know that 3 days on the street, it's a very, very serious situation. They can get caught in all kinds of things. They can either commit a crime or be a victim of a crime. So it's a really dangerous place to be out there alone on the street. One thing I can mention about our facility, we're the only place a youth can just walk up and receive services and have that safe environment. And 2 years ago, I actually had a young man from one of the high-end neighborhoods in the community. He had been abducted when he was 8, and he didn't even know that he was not with the caregiver that he needed to be with. He was kept in the home. He was not allowed to go to school. He was homeschooled. And at one visit to the library, ironically, and getting on the computer and the internet, I don't know how he found it, but he looked up and he actually saw himself as a missing child. And he left that home that very night and walked up to 2 people on the street and said, will you call the police? I need help. And the police came and got him and brought him to our facility. And we made the connection with the family. They were up in the New Jersey area. And they had not seen him, I think it was like 8 or 9 years. And the family drove down to reconcile. And it was so interesting. His older brother, who he hadn't seen, they were identical, except one was a little bit taller than the other. And so those are the kinds of memories that are really gratifying when you can reunite someone that they've had that trauma in their life. I'd like to say all the stories are happy. We have a lot of kids that come in and they're just, going through those teenage years, and it's going to take them a little while to figure it out. But our purpose is to make sure that they're safe, to assess the situation, and then if we can put some case management in place for youth and for the families, because we'd like to be able to keep those families together. We have a street outreach team that happens to be the band that's up there, and it's a mobile team, and we are very pleased that we've got teenagers on our staff. They're peer mentors, because we know peer mentors can talk to the youth faster than we can talk to them and network. In fact, when we first put that ban out on the street and we're out in the community, the kids were saying, "Are you the police? Are you the police?" And of course, we're not the police. But having our peer mentors being able to interact with youth out there that are vulnerable has been a real gift. We can't get them always to come in the shelter for sheltering, but we can certainly put them in contact in the community with those essential services that they may need. For instance, the Chatham County Health Clinic, if they need any kinds of health care or counseling or just whatever they might need without coming in. Now, there's a lot of youth that you wouldn't think are homeless, and I think a better word might be throwaway, which is still a shock to me, how many families are not able and sometimes not responsible in taking care of these children. You don't always see them on the street. You don't always recognize them because they're very resourceful. It's like homeless women with children. They're going to find someone, a friend, or something that they can get inside, maybe sleep on the couch, hang out until they've worn out their welcome, then move on to the next home. So you don't always see them on the street. They're not like some of the homeless men that are really out there. But one of the statistics, and it's hard to count, the National Runaway Switchboard, which is a real resource for us. People can call it across the United States. They can hook anybody up in Georgia with our facility or whatever state you would be in. But they have stated that between 1.6 and 2.8 million youth run away each year. So that's a lot of youth out there on the street.